Today I'm going to be talking about the Elio Motors car, the Elio. So after the intro, we will get discussing it. I'm putting a disclaimer at the beginning part of my video. I do not work for Elio Motors, as I do not also get any financial backing from Elio Motors. This video is intended solely as my reflection of the product that they're planning on producing in the later part of 2014, and the things that I feel are done right with it, and some of the things I feel they could improve on to make it just a little bit better. And I do realize that right now everything is just in the design phase, so by the time it comes out, many of the things that I feel they could improve on may have already been fixed, tweaked, or otherwise taken care of. Some of the areas I feel that the Elio has done correct is they've kept the design very simple. They're using almost all off-the-shelf parts in the car, meaning nothing has to be custom built, custom designed. You could actually go into an auto parts store and pick up the part you need because it's probably going to fit multiple other cars that are on the road today. This makes it extremely cheaper to repair and cheaper to maintain, something that some automakers have kind of gone away from, keeping their cars very, very expensive to maintain and hard to find parts for them when it comes time to repair them. Another aspect is the miles per gallon. An estimated 84 miles to the gallon on the highway, and I've read two different things, one saying about 48 and another one saying 62 miles a gallon in the city. I'm not sure which. I think on there said it's 48 for city, so that's the figure I'm going to stick with for city driving. This keeps your fuel economy very, very well in proportion, considering you only have an 8-gallon tank. If you only drive on the freeway with an 8-gallon tank, you're looking at about 672 miles before you have to fill up. And that's very far on a small tank of fuel. This also leads into another thing, is the cost of the vehicle. And this is by far the best that I've ever heard, is $6,800 for a vehicle. This could actually make it affordable for a student in high school to buy a brand new car and have it paid off before they graduate, or a college student looking for a affordable small car that they can use to get back and forth to school and back and forth to their parents' home on their summer and winter breaks. There's a few other areas, keeping the stereo, AM, FM, basic, doesn't need a lot of work, air conditioning and heating, manual transmission or an automatic, but they're all parts that are there already available in the market. Another great idea that they are looking at is a way of helping the person finance their car. They are looking into an avenue of taking a credit card type system where you purchase fuel on that card, and whatever your purchase is, it's 3 times what it normally is. So say you spend $10 in fuel, your purchase would actually be $30. Then 20 of that goes into the payment of your car. This keeps your payment lower, but there are some drawbacks and legal issues that are still being ironed out on this, and I can see it being good and I can see it being bad for people at the same time, so that's kind of one of those iffy spots. Okay, as to what I feel is bad, well, bad's actually not the term I want to use, more of what I feel could be improved upon. Going back to the stereo to start with, unless it's going to offer an MP3 jack or some type of auxiliary port to where you can plug in like an iPod or a phone, I feel that this may lead a lot of people to shy away from it. Kind of going along with that, having a power port of some type that you can charge your cell phone up, as it's not really got any type of GPS stuff. Things a lot of consumers feel they need, but honestly don't. So giving them the option to plug in their cell phone, which normally has a GPS unit on it and can be used as a GPS, that would make it great. Another area that I've seen people say that they'd like to see different is having the door on the driver's right-hand side as opposed to the left. I kind of agree with this, but I can understand where Elio is going with this idea. If the driver's door is put on the right, your shifter is going to be on the left. A lot of people are not going to understand or not be able to adjust to that right away. They could easily cultivate this problem by having an automatic, but myself and many others would prefer the manual transmission. And the only way I could see the door being on the opposite side like that would be to have a flappy paddle shifter system. But this in turn leads you to have more parts that have to be custom built at a certain point. So keeping the door on the left-hand side just makes a little more sense if they're going to stick with a true shifter on the right-hand side. Another thing that I personally have a small issue with is the power windows. In a vehicle this small, I don't feel that power windows are actually a necessity. You would be able to reach both sides fairly easily, as you are sitting right dead center of the vehicle. And power windows, to me, are at that point kind of a useless feature. In a regular sedan, I can understand a power window because it's kind of hard to reach some of them back windows. Another small thing I've seen people ask for or kind of complain about is a back window. While I don't personally see this as a problem because of the way it's designed, as to keeping the rear of the vehicle narrow and your mirrors offset far enough, you should be able to see almost directly behind you. There are some people that a back window would be helpful, although if they have anybody riding in the back, they probably would not be able to see out of it. As for the motor, there's people complaining because of the test mule that's out, but the test mule is really more of a show off what the car could look like. The engine, the interior of the car will probably get a massive overhaul when it goes into production. So the engine I don't have an issue with, unless they stay with the Geo Metro motor that they have right now, and that's the engine that they plan to go with. I realize that it's going to be a 1 liter, but they're updating the motor more for what they want. So this should alleviate that small portion. The last little bit I have a slight issue with is the use of a bottle for the washer solvent. Because yes, folks, this car will have a wiper or wipers, depending on how they go. But I was reading in the news story, which I will link below, that kind of threw me, and I'm kind of puzzled as to how this is going to work. I like the idea, but it's kind of awkward at the same time. They are saying that they are not going to offer a power or a washer fluid reservoir jug. Instead, they're going to have the regular stuff like a battery, radiator, antifreeze reservoir, oil, and filter. And I'm reading the story for word right now. But by design, there is no windshield wiper container. According to, and I'm really going to murder the name, Vaziel, the engine compartment is designed to hold store-bought bottled water, which a consumer can swap out as needed. Now, this poses a small problem in the colder climates like where I'm at in Michigan and a lot of the Northeast. It freezes here. So if you put one of these into a car and let it sit overnight, this bottle of water will become, and this is actually lemonade that I poured in here, this bottle of water will freeze and become useless. Now, I realize that this is a very, very small complaint because I could easily just fill this with a solution of washer solvent. But some people are going to see that and say, oh, well, it must not freeze when it's in there. And then become very upset when it freezes and busts or doesn't work. So they may want to consider putting a small jug in there or putting a warning out for consumers to let them know that in a colder climate, fill the bottle with some type of washer solvent or a 50-50 mix. As for my final thoughts on this, I feel that the Elio, if it can be completed, will be a very unique vehicle, and a lot of car collectors I can see purchasing it. And I can also see regular people purchasing it as it makes it more affordable for them to be on the road. Now, this isn't the first time that someone has done an affordable car that is designed for people. A lot of people don't realize that back in World War II, Hitler had the same idea. He wanted to build a vehicle for people to buy and drive. He went to Porsche and asked him to design basically a utilitarian vehicle that the masses could buy and drive. And what came back was eventually known as the Volkswagen Bug. And that went for nearly 40 years unchanged. Style-wise, the body of it was basically the same, the interior was basically the same, kept the same air-cooled 4-cylinder motor in it. While they weren't all that appealing to look at by some standards, I kind of like them myself, so I'm a little biased. People bought them, and people drove them for a very long time. In Mexico, I believe it was the later part, or the early part of the 2000s when they finally stopped making the true vintage Beetle. I do not consider the Volkswagen new Beetle to be a Beetle itself. It's more of a Jetta with a bug body on it. So, I mean, affordable cars are what people want. A lot of people don't want cameras and navigation system, touchscreen systems, all the stuff that gets in the way of the driving experience. I want to get into a car and just go and enjoy the ride, much like a motorcyclist likes to go out and enjoy the ride. And that kind of brings me to my next point. If it is classified as a motorcycle, it may get around the helmet law based on it is an enclosed capsule as opposed to an open-top vehicle. Now, if it stays classified as a motorcycle, though, I do have a question for local governments. Does that mean that the person driving inside of it does not have to wear a seatbelt? As motorcycles do not have seatbelts, or have to wear them for that matter. In a lot of areas, they do not even have to wear a helmet. If this is the case, I can see a lot of people who are against the seatbelt law buying into this car for that aspect alone. The seatbelt law, a lot of people just do not like or do not enjoy wearing one. And in some practices, I can understand where they're coming from. Will this detract if you have to wear one? No. I feel if you have to wear a helmet, though, that may be what puts a nail in the coffin. That also brings up is that what happens if we drive to Canada? Would you have to wear a helmet there? I don't know Canadian law, and I don't claim to know many of the laws in other states. Maybe someone from Canada can help me understand this or find out for me. But it just, there's so much potential here for people to open their minds to something new. It's not an EV, which a lot of people are afraid of because of batteries going dead on the road. It's not an over-glorified tank of a vehicle, which I find kind of even funnier is that it's being built in an old Hummer factory. I find that hilarious. But people just have to sit back and realize that. Go look at it, but look at it with a little grain of salt. The vehicle you're looking at right now is not the final production. It's just a real early prototype that's there to show you a substance of what it could. They could put up CAD drawings like they have been, showing you what it looks like. But CAD drawings to me aren't as effective as an actual physical object you can see, touch, look at, take pictures, talk about, point at, things of that nature. So if you look at it that way and understand that there are going to be improvements over the Mule, I think you'll actually enjoy it a lot more. As to people who say it won't handle in the wintertime, go find a front-wheel drive car, drive it in the winter. Front-wheel drive cars do very well in the winter. This will do just the same as a front-wheel drive car. In fact, it may actually do better as it doesn't have the dual wheels out back. I can't claim to know that for a fact, so I could be wrong. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a front-wheel drive car, just minus one wheel. But yeah, if they keep it in a simplistic area where it is right now, to where nearly any motorist could work on it, I feel that that would be beneficial in their long-term survival. Because their initial goal right now is to sell it inside the United States only. After they reach a certain point, then they'll branch out to other countries. Now, I have read that China would like to purchase a big lump sum of these, and if that's the case, great. That gets some money going. That gets design aspects going. It keeps them going for all needed purposes. Hopefully you've enjoyed my little rambling and thoughts of this. If you do leave a comment, I ask you first to be respectful, because I will remove it. I'll thank you for the view, but I will remove it, and then probably figure a way of banning you from commenting ever again. Pass this on to people who might be interested. Show them sites. It's the best way to get people interested is by word of mouth. Pictures don't always sell it. So, again, hopefully you've enjoyed. Rate it, whatever you want. Comment if you wish. That's all.